Imagine taking two identical people, same intelligence, same personality, same potential. Now separate them. Place one in an environment that encourages growth, supportive friends, healthy habits, people with ambition, opportunities everywhere. Then place the other in an environment filled with distraction, negativity, bad influences, no direction. Now wait 10 years. What happens? Most people would like to believe the answer doesn't matter. That success comes from willpower, discipline, motivation, character. But what if the most important decision of your life isn't something you consciously choose at all? What if the thing that determines your habits, your beliefs, your goals, your friendships, even your future, is something you barely notice? Because right now, every second of every day, your environment is shaping who you become. And most people have no idea it's happening. Think about the last 5 people you spent the most time with. Not celebrities, not influencers, real people, friends, family, coworkers. Now imagine swapping them with 5 completely different people. Different interests, different ambitions, different values. Do you really think you'd be exactly the same person 5 years from now? Probably not. And that's where things start getting uncomfortable. Because we love the idea that we're independent thinkers, that our choices belong entirely to us, that we carefully examine the world and form our own conclusions. But reality is messier than that. Humans are social creatures. We imitate, we adapt, we absorb, whether we want to or not. In fact, one of the strongest forces acting on your life is something psychologists call social contagion. The idea that behaviors spread through groups of people almost like a virus. Not because anyone forces you, because humans naturally copy each other. When the people around you exercise, you're more likely to exercise. When they smoke, you're more likely to smoke. When they're optimistic, you become more optimistic. When they're pessimistic, that spreads too. Even emotions are contagious. Have you ever noticed how spending time around a constantly negative person can completely change your mood? Or how one enthusiastic person can energize an entire room? That's not your imagination. Humans are constantly influencing one another, and often beneath conscious awareness. Which raises a strange question. How much of what you call your personality is actually yours? Think about your music taste, your clothing style, your political opinions, your goals, your sense of humor. Where did they come from? Most people assume they chose these things. But if you look closely, many of them appeared gradually. Influenced by family, friends, culture, school, the internet, the places you spend time, the people you admire. It's not that you're being controlled. It's that you're being shaped. The same way a river shapes a stone. Slowly, constantly, without asking permission. And perhaps nowhere is this more obvious than habits. People often think habits are about motivation. But motivation is unreliable. Everyone feels motivated sometimes. And everyone loses motivation eventually. The environment remains. Imagine placing a bowl of fruit on your kitchen table and hiding junk food in a cupboard. Without realizing it, you'll probably eat more fruit. Not because you became a better person, because the environment changed. Now imagine the reverse. Cookies on the table, fruit hidden away. The outcome changes too. The environment changed. The behavior followed. This sounds almost too simple. Yet it happens constantly. Your surroundings quietly push you towards certain actions while making others harder. The scary part is that most of these influences become invisible. You stop noticing them. A fish doesn't notice water, and humans rarely notice the environments they're immersed in every day. Look around your room. Seriously, take a moment. Every object around you is sending signals. Books, screens, instruments, exercise equipment, games, food, mess, organization. Your environment isn't just reflecting who you are. It's actively reinforcing who you're becoming. And then there's something even more powerful. Expectations. Imagine two students with identical ability. One grows up surrounded by people who expect them to succeed. The other grows up surrounded by people who constantly tell them they won't. Who do you think has the advantage? Expectation changes behavior. Behavior changes outcomes. Outcomes reinforce belief. And the cycle continues. Psychologists sometimes call this a self-fulfilling prophecy. A belief becomes true because people behave as though it's true, which means your environment doesn't only shape what you do. It shapes what you believe is possible. And that might be the most important influence of all. Because most limitations aren't physical. They're psychological. People rarely attempt things they believe are impossible. But the definition of possible depends heavily on what they've seen. If everyone around you starts businesses, starting a business feels normal. If nobody around you has ever done it, it feels risky, unrealistic, maybe even impossible. The exact same action. Two completely different perceptions, created by environment. This is why two people can look at the same opportunity and see entirely different realities. One sees possibility, the other sees danger, and both feel rational, because each person's environment trained them to see the world differently. Now let's make this even stranger. Imagine you could go back in time, not to change your actions, not to give yourself advice, just to change your environment. Different school, different city, different friends, different influences. Would you still be the same person today? Would you have the same goals, the same beliefs, the same fears, the same dreams? Most people instinctively answer no, which means something profound is hiding beneath the surface. The person you became wasn't inevitable. It emerged from countless interactions between you and your environment. Thousands of tiny influences, tiny conversations, tiny experiences, tiny moments, all stacking on top of one another, until they created the version of you sitting here right now. And if that's true, then something equally important must also be true. The future version of you isn't fixed either. The person you'll become 5 years from now is still being shaped. Right now, today, by the people around you, the content you consume, the conversations you have, the places you spend your time, the standards you accept, the ideas you're exposed to. Every one of these acts like a vote, not for who you are, for who you're becoming. Most people spend years trying to change themselves directly. They try to force new habits, force discipline, force motivation. And sometimes it works, for a while. But lasting change often comes from a different approach. Instead of asking, how do I change myself? Ask, what is my environment encouraging me to become? Because environments are powerful. Powerful enough to influence habits. Powerful enough to influence beliefs. Powerful enough to influence entire lives. The uncomfortable truth is that many of the biggest decisions you'll ever make won't feel like decisions at all. They'll feel normal. You'll spend time with certain people, consume certain ideas, live in certain places, follow certain routines, and years later, you'll call the result your personality, your beliefs, your choices, without realizing how much of it was shaped long before you became aware of it. But this isn't bad news. It's actually incredibly empowering. Because once you understand the force that's acting on you, you can start working with it instead of against it. You can design environments that pull you toward the person you want to become. You can surround yourself with people who inspire growth. Fill your life with better influences. Reduce the friction between who you are and who you want to be. Because while you may not control every influence around you, you can control more than you think. And small changes compound. A new friend, a new book, a new hobby, a new environment, a new conversation. One small shift can redirect an entire future. Which brings us back to the question we started with. What was the most important decision of your life? Most people think it's a career choice, a relationship, a risk they took, a path they followed. But maybe it was something far less obvious. Maybe it was the environment you placed yourself in, the people you allowed around you, the influences you accepted, the ideas you exposed yourself to. Because those invisible forces may have determined everything that came after. And if that's true, then perhaps the most important decision you'll ever make isn't what you'll do next. It's where you'll allow yourself to grow.